The Mafia genre has always been close to my heart. These days I love fantasy and I love sci-fi, but back in my early teenage years I only played games that felt realistic. No strange creatures, no bloodthirsty monsters, just stories set in a grounded world, with people we recognize. I still have a weakness for that, and Mafia: The Old Country is one of the very few games that delivers exactly what I was looking for. Think The Godfather, The Sopranos, Boardwalk Empire, men in smoky back rooms making shady deals, charismatic leaders treating the underworld like a chessboard, fighting for territory, money and power. Long before this game even launched, I knew it would scratch that specific itch. But the real question was, would the gameplay and design hold up as well? I was excited when I heard the series was going back to a more linear structure, but was that excitement justified in the end? Mafia: The Old Country, developed by Hangar 13, follows Enzo Favara. At just 5 years old, Enzo was sold by his father to work in a Sicilian silver mine. After 12 years, he finally saves enough money to pay off his father's debts and escape that life. But of course, things don't go exactly as planned. Some painful things happen, nothing quite as painful as this specific moment right here, I'm sure, and he's forced to flee from his overseer, Il Merlo, a member of the rival Spadaro clan. And just when things start to look really grim, Don Torrisi steps in. A commanding entrance, one of those charismatic leaders I just mentioned. He puts Il Merlo in his place and takes Enzo under his wing. From there, the concept will feel familiar. Prove yourself to the Torrisi family, start at the bottom carrying crates and pigs, and before you know it, you'll also be carrying dead bodies. Mafia: The Old Country is a slow burn, and not everyone will like that. Don't expect to be firing pistols right away, or living out your gangster fantasy from the start. Just like the Torrisi family, the game doesn't take you seriously at first. You're kept on a short leash. Since this isn't an open world, you only get to pull the trigger when the story wants you to. This benefits the storytelling, but it can come at the expense of immediate fun. Personally, I appreciated the slower pace. It gives Enzo's rise through the criminal ranks a realistic arc, and when violence does break out, it tends to hit harder that way. Yes, the story beats are cliché. The wise mentor, the hot-headed friend, the calculating boss, even the forbidden romance. We've all seen this before, but it works, thanks to some fantastic performances. The first thing I did was switch to Sicilian audio, hoping it would help immersion. Unfortunately, the lip sync is locked to English, which broke that exact immersion I was looking for. So I reluctantly switched back. In hindsight, that was probably a blessing, because every single actor in this game delivers. Don Torrisi, voiced with a pitch-perfect gangster growl by Johnny Santiago, steals every scene he's in.
Now we must send a message to all around that Torrisi takes care of his family and his affairs.
But the rest of the cast, big or small, sells it just as well. Between the accents and the details in the dialogue, I really felt like I was walking the streets of old Sicily. And what a Sicily it is. Early 20th century Sicily looks stunning. The flowers around the estate, the narrow cobblestone streets, the cozy terraces, the sweeping landscapes. Spending 15 hours in this world felt like a privilege. In fact, I often wished I could explore it more. I was never a fan of Mafia 3's bloated open world, but here I actually would have welcomed a little bit more freedom. Not endless wandering, but a handful of hubs would have fit perfectly. Especially because the mechanics don't always gel with the linear design. Take customization, for example. Outfits, hairstyles, beards, I couldn't help but grin with satisfaction when I saw Enzo could be dressed in sharp suits and hats. But in reality, you rarely get the chance to actually change your clothes, unless the story puts you near a wardrobe. And the same goes for cars. You can buy them, but you barely ever get to use your own, which also makes collecting money feel a bit pointless. After all, what's the point of crime if you can't show off the spoils? We're not just doing it for the love of the craft, are we? On the gameplay side, stealth is usually the smart choice. Enemy have predictable patrols, and with the instinct system highlighting their silhouettes, it's almost too easy. Most of the time I didn't even need a plan, just patience. The knife plays a big role, maybe too big a role. It's not only for stealth takedowns, but also for boss fights. At first these duels are exciting, but they quickly become repetitive. Dodge, parry, stab. Cutscene. Rinse and repeat. So more variety would have gone a long way. Gunplay is basic but solid. You can carry 2 weapons at a time. Shotguns, pistols, rifles, things like that. Headshots are always fatal, which feels right for a grounded experience like this one. Even so, combat isn't particularly challenging. On standard difficulty I rarely struggled, especially with loot and ammo always plentiful. You do get some cinematic sequences on horseback or in cars, where the game takes over aiming so you can focus on steering. They look great, but the heavy scripting removes some of the player urgency. The same goes for race sequences. The game clearly wants you to win, with opponents slowing down when you come near them, or even checkpoints magically pulling you closer to that winning position. It often felt more like watching a movie than playing a race. Turning on simulation driving and manual shifting helped me feel more in control. And honestly, shifting gears manually was surprisingly satisfying. So, Mafia: The Old Country. A story we've seen before with gameplay we've seen before, but it's told with such class and finesse that it makes up for the familiar mechanics. Thanks to outstanding performances and writing that takes its time, I spent 15 hours feeling like part of Sicily and the Torrisi family. The stealth is simple, the gunplay is basic, and there are too many repetitive knife duels, but the strength of the story more than carries it through.